Welcome to another video podcast of She Speaks Fierce, females inspiring and empowering real change everywhere. I'm your friend, Kat, and your sister in this journey of inner strength and self-empowerment. For all of our new viewers this week, you can find all of our content or links to it, including our newsletter, Spotify podcast, TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook on our website, www.shethinksfierce.com. Link is in the video description. And if you don't currently receive our free weekly newsletter reminding you about how awesome and powerful you are, please go to the website, click on any Substack newsletter, and click subscribe. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share all of our content with all of the fierce women you know. Today, we are going to hear from one of my favorite women in the world, an amazing, talented singer and musician, doctor's wife and mother of 5, Cami Terry. Hi, Cami. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Kat. I appreciate you asking me to do this. This is a great opportunity.
Well, we love having you here, and I always love hearing from you and about you. And you have a very special story to share with us today. I'm really excited to hear about it. You really had a very interesting experience recently. You had the ability to go with a group of doctors similar to that of Doctors Without Border. Can you tell us a little bit about how that started up and where the idea came from?
Yeah, well, originally it was just going to be my husband and a friend that is also a doctor. She's an OBGYN. And they were just going to go to Chad and for 2 weeks, just help with surgeries and, service, doing things to help the people over there. And I wasn't going to go, but that I've never really had that. This may sound bad, but I never had the desire to go to Africa because it always kind of scared me.
Sure.
Just because, there's it. I'm used to my comforts and the things that I get to enjoy and where I live, and they don't have those type of resources over there. It's different, a lot different. So it was my husband and our friend, and her husband went with her. And one morning I woke up and I just felt like I needed to go, that I needed to be a part of that, which was not expected because, like I said, I've always been afraid of Africa. but I felt this pull, this need to go. And so I told my husband, I was like, I think I need to go with you guys. I want to be a part of this. And so we made the plans and we decided to go, and we went with our friends. It was quite the adventure.
I expect so. And you went to, I can't remember if I mentioned already, you went to Chad, Africa, right?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
It's this really small town. I wouldn't even call it a city. It's a very small place called Bere, Bere. It's just really small, kind of in the middle of nowhere, but they have a hospital there that was built by the Seventh-day Adventists. And so they need volunteers all the time. So that's what we decided to do, was go and volunteer.
So what kinds of things do the volunteers do for this type of program? Can you start by telling us a little bit about that?
Well, what they really need are medical staff, because that is where they run short. They run short on supplies. And so a lot of times, like, what we did was help bring supplies. And so we had 4 huge suitcases full of just supplies and things that they needed. And sometimes it was something silly like razors, like to shave with, things that are just readily available. Right. Just things like that. But so we generally, though, it's surgeons and other doctors that go to help with the medical part of it is what they really need.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, So tell us a little bit, if you would, about a lot of us have these moments where we kind of question our own capabilities. And before your trip to Africa, did you feel like you maybe didn't have the expertise or may not be able to make a significant impact? And
Oh, absolutely.
how did you navigate those feelings?
Well, I don't even have a degree of any kind yet. I'm working on it. I'm doing online, but I don't have any expertise. And we were going with my husband's a family practice doctor. Our friend is an OBGYN, and then her husband is a YouTuber. So he was going to document it all. So they all had something they were bringing to the table, something that they were going there specifically for. Um, so absolutely, I was feeling very inadequate, thinking like, what is it that I'm supposed to bring here? I don't know. And you have to make a decision. Like this happens, I feel like most of the time, just even as a mom, you have to decide, are you going to shrink back into the shadows because you're feeling inadequate and because you're feeling like you can't do it very well? Or you decide to step up and say, I know who I want to be. I know that I want to be someone who brings goodness in the world. And I don't know what I can do, but I know I can go there and I can do something.
Amazing.
So I went, and I felt inadequate up to the point where we even got there, and I still didn't know what my role was going to be. But I had faith that I would come to know that as the time progressed while I was there.
So, I mean, venturing into the unknown altogether can be daunting, but especially going into the kind of known that you're a little bit afraid of. How did you prepare yourself mentally, emotionally, practically for this mission?
Well, there's no way to really prepare, I feel like, for the
Okay.
things that you see, the things you experience, because it's especially when it's so different than what you know. But I made sure to write in my journal. I brought my journal with me, and I would write down the things that I wanted to make sure to do. Like I wanted to bring someone joy that day. Like I would write down like, okay, I'm gonna help someone today, just one person. And I think just having the idea that I can do some good, that is what kind of kept me pushing forward.
Excellent. There is always somebody that we can meet, talk to, have some sort of impact on. I mean, help across the street, just sometimes even just a little basics, right? There, if you're looking, you can
Right.
always find something to do. So absolutely. Okay, so if you wouldn't mind walking us through your first day in Chad, what went through your mind?
Well, I was really tired. I mean, it's a 7-hour difference, and we had been traveling all day the day before and all day that day. An 8-hour bus ride with no, like, they're not good roads at all, like, not paved, mostly dirt. Their idea of a bus stop, like doing a rest stop, was going and stopping in the middle of the desert and saying, okay, go to the bathroom, and you go to the bushes. Like, that was. So
So
it was
kind of
kind
like
of.
traveling around when you're young.
Right. Or camping. That's what it kind of felt like, is we were on a long camping trip. And there were definitely some obstacles. We had to sit and raidle around with our huge suitcases for 2 hours in this one town that was 2 hours away from where we're supposed to be. And we couldn't get a ride. Usually, a lot of times they'll have you take motorcycles for 2 hours over there, but we had these huge suitcases, and they could have strapped them on, I guess. That would have been an adventure in itself. But
I imagine they've done it before.
yeah, oh, I'm sure they've had to. But they finally got an SUV for us, but it was a lot of sitting around and just watching, and everybody, they're not afraid to come up and just stare at you, like come stand next to you and just stare at you. Because they're curious, like, what are you guys doing here? And obviously there's a language barrier, so we couldn't just strike up conversation. But I always made it a point to look at people in the eye and just smile at them and wave and, like, show, like, there's some things that are universal, and smiles are one of them, and like a friendly gesture, like, hi, like to let them know we're not threatening. We're just here to help. So,
I
so
can't
yeah.
imagine you would be seen as threatening anyway. I mean,
I don't know. I was pretty tired and pretty rough looking after an 8-hour bus ride, but
hey, we've
we
all
got
been
there.
there. Come on. I mean, some of these 24-hour transition times to and from the States, especially, or from Asia to Europe, and oh, it can be rough. Yeah, those long journey times.
Yes, for sure. So we got there to the compound that the hospital was on, and immediately they fed us dinner. The people that live on the compound, that are like the doctors and the nurses, and they fed us dinner. But right after that, my husband and our friend got to work immediately. They needed them right away. We didn't even have time to like rest. Like it was like. Then they even asked, they were very nice about like, hey, I know it's been a long travel, but we've got these things going on in the hospital. Do you think you can help? And they're like, well, might as well get started. So
Right.
they did. And it was the thing I was really grateful for was there was running water from the well.
Excellent.
Right. And there was a bed to sleep in, and there was a toilet. I'm like, if I have those three things, I can do anything. And not most people in the town don't have that, but on the hospital compound, they kind of try to accommodate for people that are volunteering, because it's, they want them to feel like they have some of the accommodations that they normally have.
Yeah.
But it's definitely not the same, like no hot water, you have to boil your water if you want hot water in the shower. And yeah, so it was definitely a cultural experience. It was different for sure.
Okay. Uh, so what about some of the small things that you started doing? So like anything specific moments or interactions that kind of seemed maybe it would be insignificant to someone, but you started having these interactions with people, your daily goals you mentioned, anything that turned into something more deeper meaning for you?
Well, for sure. So in my overall experience, I don't know how much good I did or service I did, but the people I interacted with changed me. Like you talk about empowering women and being fierce and strong, and that's what these women were. The women that I interacted with that were nurses and doctors or just wives of the people that worked there. They uh, were sacrificing. Most of them, so some of them were from Europe, some of them were from, like one was from Chile, and others were from Canada and the States. And all of these people are, used to the normal accommodations of, like having electricity and, other things that we take for granted. But these were long-term people, like staying there for years, sacrificing all these things for years because they want to help their fellow men. Like
Incredible.
they're not getting paid a lot. Like it's more because they feel called to help their fellow men and women.
Yeah.
When I say fellow men, I mean like everyone in general. So that to me was incredible. There was a medical student there. She was telling me about how she had already started a nonprofit organization, and like things that I just hear about. I don't necessarily see it in the works. That to me was empowering to see these women step it up. Like there was a grandma there that she wasn't necessarily doing construction. Her husband was, but she was there to be with him and support him. But she did so much on the sidelines of like she would make smoothies for this child that couldn't eat or swallow anything that was staying in the hospital.
Wow.
And she would make dinner for the people that worked there because they were working all day and they needed some food. And so she would take care of them. Just little things like that just touched my heart. Like these good people that just want to help others. And really what I did was just spend time with them. Like the grandma, she and I just sat and talked for hours. She doesn't get normal like English conversation. So it was a way for her to just like tell her life story. And
Oh,
I felt like I was more like ministering to the people that were there, that were working there, than I was necessarily doing things. Like I wasn't feeding the hungry and clothing the naked, that type of thing. But just those little interactions with those people that worked there were meaningful to me, and empowered me. Like I can do good things. I can be like these women.
and I mean,
Um,
that's no small thing, is, you know, if you've ever been someone who has felt alone or really not had a lot to feel like you had to offer, any little thing to be connected or to help someone else really adds so much to that feeling of self-worth and value. And really, I mean, it doesn't make us valuable, but it does help us be able to feel our inner strength and our own value, to be able to add at least a little bit of that. And again, to be the one on the receiving end, to have those conversations when maybe you're a little lonely during the day because everyone else is working, healing the sick and doing this other stuff, you know.
yeah,
So it's nice to have both sides of that, really.
yeah. It was. There were times when I'd go to the hospital and like one of my friend. She wasn't my friend before this trip, but I met her there, and she was one of the nurses there, a midwife, and she would take me around. She could speak the language and she could also speak English, so she was my interpreter. She called me her white sister because we became really close, and she took me around to the maternity area and just explained to me. She would explain to me the things that the struggles and the malaria is a huge issue over there. Like when we were there, half of the people in the hospital had malaria.
Oh, wow.
And even a couple people on the compound had malaria, the people that worked there.
Wow.
So it's there it can be depressing if you just see all the struggle, because it is a huge struggle. And starvation is the thing. They really um, my one of the respiratory therapists that was there was telling me a story of when he there were some rats that were going around, and we heard the rats at night too. And one time he killed the rat in the middle of the night, and he threw it over the back wall, which is where the school is. And the next morning he could hear the kids, and they were yelling and saying food, food, because they were so excited about this rat that just was there. They didn't have to go and catch it and kill it to eat it. It was readily available. And just things like that, where you just like, it's hard
Wow.
to fathom. It's hard to see. Obviously these are things that they own, like this is the life they know,
Yeah.
and they don't know any better, and that's just how it is. But for someone who sees that there is a way to have a better life, it can be heartbreaking and depressing. And the respiratory therapist, he took me around to some of the things that he was doing, some of the children he was administering to, and some of them were hard. Like there were flies everywhere, and it was 100 degrees and no air conditioning, and just awful circumstances. And he was administering to this baby that had been burned all over his chest, and he made a salve for him so that he could have some relief. And I just, after walking with him and administering to these children that were suffering and struggling, I just asked him, I said, how do you do it? How do you not, like, because he'd been there for 4 months.
Sure.
And I just, how do you not let it get to you? How do you feel like you can keep going on and not just give up? And the thing that he said really stuck with me. And he said, because there's something I can do to help them. And this gentleman was from Chile, and he just, the thing that he said, that there's something I can do, it became my mantra after that. Like yes, I don't have the expertise to sew these people up or to take out their cancer or to, give them the relief in the way that my husband or a friend can. But there's something I can do. I can hold someone's hand. I can share, I can sing a song for them. I can just smile at them. We went to the market every now and then, probably every other day. We would walk to the market. It was like a mile away. And as you're walking, you have hordes of kids that just come and they run and they yell foreigner. I mean, in their language, they're like foreigner, and that's like their favorite thing. They love to come up and touch you, and like it's a novelty thing, and they love it. And I would make sure to say in their language, I would say lapia, or and that means like a hello or bonjour, because it's French is the main language over there, and different kinds of French. But and so I made sure to make eye contact, to greet them, and to let them know you are seen. Like, yeah, these things are hard, but my heart just grew. Every person that I saw, I loved, and I could see them. I could see myself in them. I could see what it would be like to be in their circumstance, and I just loved them.
I
So
love
this
that so
experience,
much. That makes me so happy. I love to hear that.
it was amazing. I don't, like I said, I don't think I did anything groundbreaking. I didn't, start a nonprofit organization like the med student did. And I didn't relieve a ton of hunger. Like, I helped feed some kids, but that was, like one meal for a few kids doesn't solve world hunger issues. But there was, the people that I interacted with, I made sure to let them know in the way that I could that I love them, and that they're seen, and that, God knows who they are. So if that's all I could do, then at least for that one day, for that one person, there's that one thing I did. So
Honestly, that is so important. If everyone had that, where at least one other person could tell them or could show them that they were seen and that they were loved, I think we would live in a completely different world. I mean,
definitely.
a little tiny bit goes a super long way, and really, really far way. And I think that's incredible. And I'm so happy to hear about that. So if you looking back at your journey and your apprehension to action, in what ways do you feel like your life has been changed, or that experience has changed you?
Well, it was hard coming back. It was hard in some ways, like, and seeing the roads all like paved and smooth, like that to me was heaven sent. So that wasn't hard, that was good. But like, it was hard for me not to get angry at my kids for, like, they were fighting over who got the Xbox controller, and in things like that, where I'm like, there are starving kids in Africa. It was hard for me not to be angry, like, but they didn't see and experience those things like I did. But it helps me to see that the world is full of need, is full of people that just need to be loved, and they're just the little things that we can do. So I've tried to make it my mantra, even now, that there is something I can do, that even in my small community that I live, even though the need is not so apparent, because we don't have necessarily starving people on the street, and we have clean streets, and the need is harder to see because most of it is underneath the skin. People can't see that. But I've come to repeat that in my mind. There's something I can do. And every now and then I get these ideas, whether it's, people believe in God or the universe, but it's the ideas that I feel from God telling me, you can go do this for somebody. And I try to make it a point to listen to those things, because I know that there's something I can do to help somebody else. So
Amazing. So what about with your kids? What have you taught your children about this experience? Because they weren't able to go with you, but I'm sure there were quite a few lessons you brought home with you and tried to instill upon them.
Yeah. Um, I mean, unfortunately, unless you live in that world, it's hard to really convey how bad it is, how hard, not bad, just hard. It's a hard life. We showed them pictures, we explained, we shared stories. So they knew about some things, but really what I want to do is bring my kids, like whether it be there or other places, I want them to see what it's like to experience what they have so they can appreciate like this life that you have is amazing.
Sure.
Um, so I don't know, it's hard to teach someone that. It's kind of like I try to explain things to them, but really some things are meant to be experienced themselves.
Yeah.
So I hope to someday bring those experiences to them so they can learn and see for themselves.
I mean, you do have good kids anyway, but yeah, it's definitely a different experience when you go into at least what we previously deemed third world countries, the more undeveloped countries, where they live in constant struggle. I haven't been to Africa yet, but my experiences in different parts of Southeast Asia have definitely been very similar to that. Very eye-opening, very humbling, and really heartwarming to see how much love some of the people in these areas have. And they may not have a lot of financial support or a lot to give physically, or but they are just the most generous, most loving people you will ever meet. And they have more love than most people I have met on the planet. And I'm not sure how that works exactly, but it does definitely give me something to try to emulate and work towards, because if they're full of that much love, regardless of having their needs met, it must be possible for the rest of us too.
Well, I try to make it a point to think about how nothing in this life or nothing that own is truly mine. So if I can remind myself that all these things can be gone and will be gone, it helps to get into a more humble state.
Sure.
And so it's a little bit easier to love and serve others more when you don't take ownership of things.
Yeah.
So I don't know, if I want to teach anything to my kids, it's how to take ownership of who they truly are and not what is around them, the things that they have.
I mean,
So
that's the only real important part anyway, right? That inner strength, the love that we have, and what can you do with it then? That's that real sign of affluence and success. Is it's how many people can you touch? How many people can you change? What can you do out in the world? And I think that's something that it seems like again a very daunting task to feel like you have that influence on another person or something that you can do. I mean, there's a lot of women that feel inadequate or feel like they can't get out of their comfort zone, and they're maybe a little too scared to do the things that would be really in really strengthening or really empowering. What would you say to one of these women?
there will always be feelings of fear. No matter what you're going into, that's not your normal. So whether it's deciding to go to a gym, to exercise, or starting a new relationship, there will always be a fear of failure or a fear of what if something happens. So you have to really decide. It's a choice. Like, am I going to let this fear choke me and make me shrink? Or am I going to choose to be who I want to be anyway, despite the fear? There was definitely fear attached to going to Africa. There were so many of the unknowns of what if this goes wrong and what if we get, kidnapped or what, like outlandish, but things that the fear is always there. The fear of feeling like the unknown, not sure what's going to happen. But you just learning to push through. Like, yes, sometimes bad things are going to happen, but if you're determined to be who you want to be, then you can get through anything. Not letting those fears take control of you. You get to choose what you focus on. And if you choose to focus on the fears, it will choke you.
Yeah.
But if you choose to focus on what you really want, what you really want to be, what you really want to do with your life, then that's where the empowerment comes. Focus on what you want and where you truly want to be. So.
And I could not have said that better. Amazing. I completely agree. And I I would say sometimes even doing the things that you think other people think are normal, or in our perception, we just think, oh, everyone else is doing this. No one else gets nervous by this. That's most of the time probably not true. A lot of people feel insecure about the things that they're doing on a regular basis. It's one of the reasons why I want this platform to show the things that people are doing, the beautiful things that women are doing around the world that maybe seem like everyday experiences or that are really scary, and you may not know what to expect, and going in blindly. I mean, doing these interviews, right? I'm nervous before every single one of them.
Yeah.
I'm human. I make mistakes. I'm sure I don't look fantastic on camera all the time, but you know what? It's fine. It is what it is. And the message is worth it. So it's just about getting out there and doing the little tiny bit of what we can do when we can do it, right? We have just this small amount of time of life, and there's only so much we can do in the world. And if we're not trying to do any of it, then we of course have a lot less we're going to be able to do. So just one step at a time, one thing at a time, and even just the little things, the small things. Can you smile at somebody today and make their day? Can you say hi to somebody when maybe nobody else has said hi to them for a while, right? I mean, just the little things really are what can make the difference for somebody else every day.
Yep.
So
Absolutely.
finally, if we wrap up a little bit here, in a world full of doubts and fears, what message do you hope other women take away from your journey, and what steps would you advise them to take in their own lives, no matter how small, to truly believe that there is something I can do, something they can do?
Well, I was going to say to just believe that there is something that they can do. Um, belief goes a long way. If you believe that you're not good enough, or that you don't have the abilities, or you don't have the expertise to bring to the world, if you believe those things and if you let those things bring you down, then they will. But if you believe that there's something you can do, if you believe that you have the power to choose who you want to be, then you can do things, even just by small and simple things, like making your bed in the morning. Like, even if it's just one thing you can do, there's something you can do, no matter how small and no matter how big. And maybe it's big. Maybe today it's going to be a big choice that you do that makes it so there's something you can do that's big. But most of the time, it's those small and simple things over a period of time that really make the difference in you and in the people around you. So there's something you can do today. Believe that there is something you can do today.
Beautiful. So inspiring. And I'm so happy that you were willing to come on and share with us. Really, I hope you get the opportunity to do more things like this and take the family
Me
with
too.
you. And
Me too.
and me too. You've inspired me to want to do this too. I'm not sure if I'm courageous enough to go to Africa yet. I also have a little bit of that fear. But after your experience and your story, I'm closer. But I will find something that I can do here for me today, something that I can do. There is something. So thank you again for coming on. I know we're all blessed by your message today and by what your husband and the group was doing in Chad to help. Anytime people are willing to selflessly help like that, it's just incredible to me. So
Well, thank
thank
you
you
so
so
much.
much.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. It's helped me to remember. It's been several months, so it's been great to remember and to keep those things in my thoughts so I can live by those things that I've learned. So thank you.
Wonderful. Well, and for you, our ladies joining us today, thank you for joining us. Have a fantastic day. And I remember there is something that you can do no matter what. Until next time, we will see you then. Bye-bye.